Good evening and welcome back to KabuffFM. The fanatical worldwide readership of this radio station have been wondering where I've been for the last few days. Well, one person asked anyway. So I'd like to say all I've been doing, which is not strictly true, but all I've been doing is reading this really fat book. Fat and slightly mysterious book. As I said, that's not quite true, but I thought it was time to talk about another book. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this book, which is actually a proof copy of Lucy Ellmann's Ducks Newburyport, which its publishers, Galley Beggar, the very fine Galley Beggar, sent me in return for a copy of the Frankfurt Kabuff, about which more at some point or another, maybe. So that was very kind of them. Thank you very much, Ali in particular. Which is why it hasn't got a proper cover. And they also sent me its own tote bag. And as you can see, this is a book so big it deserves its own bag. Ducks Newburyport. There we go. So I started reading Ducks Newburyport actually a couple of months ago. When I was on strike, I thought it was a good project to start up. It's 1,000 pages long. It's notoriously supposed to be one sentence, though there are a couple more sentences or a couple more full stops than that. But still, it's quite a comprehensive book. It's a chunk. It has heft. It's also a feminist stream of consciousness, which is definitely my thing. Might not be everybody's thing. I'm going to read you a little bit towards the end of this broadcast so you can work out whether it might be the thing for you or not. But one of the things I was going to reflect on was that I started reading this book, as I said, when I was on strike. But obviously one of the things I could do when I was on strike was go out onto the picket line, hold placards, chat to my pals, go for cups of coffee afterwards, etc, etc. And so I actually put this book aside for a little bit and then picked it up again a couple of weeks ago. And it just felt all of a sudden quite strange, because I've had this, as everyone else has, consciousness of just being inside the house and not being able to move at all. And all of a sudden it felt really strange to be completely in this woman's head, the stream of consciousness that you're getting. But she's allowed out of the house occasionally. So the protagonist of this is a woman in the States. So it was published last year. And so it's in the Trump era. So she talks a lot about Donald Trump. She talks a lot about water poisoning and gun control. And one of the things that I really love that she talks about is her job is she's self-employed. Her husband is an academic, but she's self-employed and she makes pies and sells them onto cafes and restaurants. And sometimes there's just like page after page after page of the names of pies. And what more does anyone want in a book than that? Sweet pies, they are mainly. So the other thing, just before I read you a little bit of this, that I would say is that, as I said, I was very lucky and delighted to get this free copy. But actually, I would say my top tip, if you haven't read this book and you think you might want to read this book, is I would say maybe buy an e-copy, which is what I did. So I'm actually reading it on my phone, and apparently according to my phone I'm 43% through, and statistics are important in reading, just because I don't know, I mean there's a lot of words on the page and there aren't really paragraphs, but actually reading it on your phone is a delight, and you just go through page after page after page of descriptions of really delicious food and rants about Trump and all sorts of extraordinary things like that. So I'm just going to read you a little bit from the start. And actually I'd forgotten this, but my friend Julie, who'd just started reading this, not my sister Julie, but my friend Julie, had mentioned something which makes it perhaps even more appropriate for today's times. And I'd started reading this in February, so I hadn't really clocked it quite so much because I don't have a huge amount of foresight, but I do have some hindsight now. So I've gone back to this section. So this is what I'm going to read to you. Let me just find the little bit that I want to read. Here we go. So, the fact that we have to have a cocktail party and I don't know what to wear, the fact that the only fun part is deciding on the canapes, cocktails, cock-a-doodle-doo, cock, oh my word, the fact that words just pop into my head like that. Dear me, the fact that I've got to get the dough going for the cinnamon rolls, the fact that at least we're not having any more dinner parties, the fact that I put my foot down there, your feet's too big. Feet are strength, foot loose and fancy free. The fact that our parties are always a big flop anyway because the kids come down in the middle in their onesies and kill all conversation with cuteness. The fact that they look like polar bear cubs and they know it. The fact that sometimes they end up serving the drinks too. The fact that I don't know what Prof would make of that, especially since she's teetotal. Tea, Triscuits, Ritz crackers, saltines, Fritos, Doritos, Frito-Lay, Planters peanuts, Blue Diamond smoked almonds, Prohibition, some like it hot, the fact that soon polar bears and walruses will have nowhere to go because the polar ice is melting, cheese and pineapple on sticks, cheddar cheese, logs, school bus, ground cardamom, dried cherry zest, the fact that walruses can swim for 400 miles, sure, but not forever, for Pete's sake, the fact that animals don't pride themselves on irrationality the way that we do, the fact that, according to Ben, half the mammals on the planet will disappear by 2050, 200 species a day or something like that, the fact that Ben says everybody on Earth will soon be starving or suffocating or dying of SARS or Ebola or H5N1, the fact that H5N1 only has to mutate a few more times and we're all goners. So maybe it was all for nothing, human achievement, but before that happens, we still have to do our taxes, and Leo needs to fix the garage door, the fact that it keeps sticking, missing button, bathroom grouting, the fact that Stacey will probably approve of the fact that Stacey would approve of a global pandemic as long as it included us, her nearest and dearest. There is, I promise, a lot of descriptions of pies and it makes me hungry every time I read this book. So I would totally recommend it. Newburyport by Lucy Ellman. Thanks, bye, hope you're well.